I have contemporary romance recommendations for you today. Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I am sharing with you some contemporary romance recommendations. And the reason I'm doing contemporary romance is because for my June prompt for my Christian Fiction Reading Challenge, the prompt is your second most read genre. Now, my second most read genre could be, most likely, is different than your second most read genre. But I thought, okay, let's look and see what is my second most read genre and what do I need to find for June? What kind of book do I need to find to fill this prompt? So then I was like, okay, how do I figure out what my second most read genre is? Do I go just based on this year alone from January to now? Or do I go based on 2023 from January to December? Or I was like, okay, I can go April 2023 to April 2024. So that's a year. And that's why it's not with my regular yearly stats, kind of mix it up a bit. So that is what I decided to do. And that is a little bit different than what my current yearly stats are. Like the genre breakdown. Okay, so from April 2023 to April 2024, I read 145 books. Out of that 145, my most read genre was romantic suspense with 43 books, so 30%. Then my second most read genre was contemporary romance with 30 books, so 21%. And then my third was historical with 29 books, so 20%. So here's the graph showing that. And so when I just look at this year's, from January to like now, May 2024, my most read genre is contemporary romance, which really shocked me. I've read quite a few this year, but that is not my typical, because when I look back at 2023 as a year, my most read genre was romantic suspense with contemporary romance being my second. So that's kind of the common theme normally. Okay, now, when I was going through my contemporary romances and trying to come up with 10 books I'm going to recommend to you, that was difficult. I realized something. So last year alone, like in the last 12 months, I've read 30 out of 145. However, I don't have that many 5 stars. But the 5 stars that I have found, I have loved. And a lot of them I've read more than once because I've loved them. And I was like, that is really interesting, because even the ones that I've read this year, I don't have that many 5 stars. And if they're not like favorites, why do I keep going to this genre? But I keep going to this genre because I find these ones that I really enjoy. Yeah, I do find some misses or read some misses, but then I find ones that I really enjoy, so I keep coming back. So, okay, so let's start. The first book I'm going to recommend to you is It Any Wonder by Courtney Walsh. This is book number 2 of the Nantucket love story. However, it is part of a series, but it can be read as a standalone. It does take place in the same setting, like Nantucket Island, as the other books. However, none of the characters carry over. So it easily can be read as a standalone. So I have read this book twice. I gave it 5 stars both times. And I just recently read it in May, so I have just reviewed this on my channel in the very last wrap-up that went up, the May mid-month. Okay, so 12 years ago, Cody and Louisa made a pact that no matter where their lives take them, they will return to the Nantucket Island Lighthouse for their 30th birthday on July 30th. But that was before a tragic accident happened that upended their lives and pulled them apart. They reconnect in a pretty dramatic way 12 years later, and we follow them with that reconnection and trying to figure out how they're going to move forward. Can they rediscover what was lost, and can forgiveness be found? I loved the way these characters' personalities balanced out each other and saw the best in the other, even during trying circumstances. This deals with forgiveness and bitterness, and it is filled with great side characters. So then the next book is The Two of Us by Victoria Bylin. This is a standalone. Again, it's another one that I have read twice and gave it 5 stars both times. So Maya and Jake meet randomly in a restaurant, but what they don't know is how life is going to bring them together. I really enjoyed following their story and getting to know them and the other characters. There was a lot addressed throughout the course of this book. Finding oneself, learning to trust others and God, dealing with family health issues, and so much more. Both Jake and Maya have to decide if the dreams they are each pursuing is worth the cost, or could God be leading them towards something better. The main focus might be on Mia and Jake, but the side characters were also critical to the story. Without them, the story would have lost some of the realness. I felt like I experienced all the emotions possible: frustration, sadness, laughter, happiness over the course of this story. The only thing that I have a problem with it, I'm not sure how to say the main character's name correctly. Okay. Then the next one is The Fifth Avenue Story Society by Rachel Hauck. Again, it's one that I have read twice. And once I find a book I like, I love returning to it and kind of just having that happy feeling again. Okay, so this book starts out by introducing the reader to 5 separate characters. Each character has their own storyline and are strangers to one another, except for 2 who have a strained past. They each receive a mysterious invite to the Story Society. No one knows who sent the invitation or why they were chosen. I loved that the story is told through the 5 different points of views, and as it allowed me to really get to know the characters. It was easy to follow with each time it switched a point of view because the chapter said who that point of view was going to be. And each character is coming from a different background and a different age group. But there is a friendship formed during their Monday night meetings that impacts their everyday lives. The healing that these individuals go through as they learn to open up and be vulnerable and grow was inspiring. And there is romance in it. Okay, then the next one is Kept by Sally Bradley. This is book number 1 of the Kept series, but it can be read as a standalone. The whole story is told in this book. You do not need to read book 2 to continue the story. It follows a sibling, book 2. Okay, so life has taught Mishka that there are no honorable men. Her womanizing brothers, her absentee father, and Mark, the married baseball player who claims to love her, have all proved undependable. She runs her editing business from her luxury condo, and in her free time blogs anonymously about life as a kept woman. Then Dylan, a youth pastor, and his brother move in next door. An unexpected friendship forms between them, but their views and lifestyle are so different that neither can predict what the future might hold for them. Through them, Mishka meets Tracy, who shares her faith with Mishka, not only through her words, but also through her actions. Tracy has her own struggles she is dealing with and could have treated Mishka very differently, but she doesn't. She really befriends her. And the friendship between these 2 women was wonderful and heartwarming, and we see Mishka kind of change and find God. This story felt very realistic as it deals with some tough topics, and all the characters, both believers and unbelievers, have flaws. The author did not gloss over any of the hard stuff, instead showed God's grace and faith for forgiveness. She really digs into the Bible and explains it well. I loved these characters and wanted to spend more time with them. Okay, then we have The Saturday Night Supper Club by Carla Laureano. Yes, it's another one I've read twice. And so we are following Chef Rachel, who was a chef at a fine dining restaurant until an article is written about her that goes viral and she loses her kitchen. And it looks like all her dreams have come crashing down. Alex never imagined that his article would have such an effect that it did, and he feels horrible about it. So he sets out to make amends with Rachel, someone he's never met. Neither can imagine a partnership between them would turn into so much more. As much as I enjoyed following the possible romance, I especially enjoyed the friendships portrayed. So Alex and his best friend Brian, Rachel and her two best friends Melody and Anna, and then Alex and his sister Dina. Each relationship was special and touched me in a different way. This is a beautiful story that kept me glued to the pages and connecting with the characters and feeling their emotions. Okay, and then the next one is also by Carla Laureano, and that is 5 Days in Skye. I have not read this book twice. I have read this book 3 times. And this is book 1 of the MacDonald family trilogy. Again, it can be read as a standalone. It is book 1, so it's introducing you to the MacDonald family. And then the next books kind of pick up the other siblings' stories. I do recommend them as well. I enjoy them, just not as much as I enjoy this one. So in this one, we are following Andrea, who is an American hospitality consultant who has been assigned to go to the Isle of Skye to snag a consulting job. She meets the chef, James MacDonald, who turns out to be very different than her expectations have led her to believe. This is an instant love story, as it takes place over the course of 5 days. But the descriptions and the setting make me feel like I was visiting the Isle, and I just loved the family interaction and watching this relationship bloom. Then we have Provenance by Carla Laureano. I've only read this book once. Shocker? Yes. But that means it will be reread at some point in the future. So in this one, we are following Kendall, who is an LA interior designer. She learns that she has inherited a piece of property in Colorado from her grandmother she never knew anything about. When Kendall finds out about the property, her first thought is, I'm going to sell it and I'll have funds for my business. However, the mayor of Jasper Lake, Colorado, wants to convince Kendall there's another way, and not to sell. Can Gabe convince her? As the two work together to come up with a solution that will satisfy both of them, a connection develops, but there are obstacles in their way. Through the influence of Gabe, Kendall learns that maybe God has been there for her through the whole time, and she just couldn't see it. Okay, and then we move on to It Had to Be You by Susan May Warren. This is book number 2 of the Christensen family series. And this is one I would recommend reading in order because we are following the 6 Christensen siblings through this series, and there is kind of a continuing storyline throughout. But this is book 2. So you're like near the beginning of the series in this one. And yes, I've read this one twice. Okay, so Eden, who is the Christensen sibling, and Jace clash. Eden blames Jace for his influence on her brother Owen, and Jace finds Eden to be an overbearing sister. However, as the two get to know one another more, they realize that you can't judge anyone based on outward appearances and rumors. I loved how Jace purposely made moves to make Eden feel special. The interweave story of Sam and his daughter Maddie and Owen's struggles were heart-wrenching to read about. I cried a few times throughout this story, however, it was so worth the emotions. I enjoyed that the author took me through so many emotions and showed how God is there for you through everything. Okay, and then the last 2 I'm going to recommend are both by Teresa Tysinger. They are book 1 and book 4 of a series. Yes, I did enjoy book 2 and 3, but these were my 2 favorites of this series. Kind of the bookends of the series. Okay, so book 1 is Someplace Familiar, and this is the Laurel Cove Romance, is the name of the series. So in book 1, we are following the artist Livy Johnson, who needs a fresh start. She comes to Laurel Cove to restore her grandmother's place that was left to her. She reconnects with a childhood friend, Jack. Due to experiences in both of their past, they struggle with trust issues and have no plans to get involved with anyone. Can their feelings change? Will their feelings change? I loved the way the community kind of welcomed Livy to the town, and that she was accepted into a friend group and found friendships that she had never experienced before. And just watching the romance bloom and the way the characters grew throughout the story, it was so heartwarming, and I just loved it. And did I say? I've read this series twice. Okay, then book number 4 is Say It's for Good. We are following Jasper and Leah. So, is a decade enough time to heal old wounds? So Chef Leah has moved home to care for her ailing father after her mother passes away. Her father wants her to find someone before he is gone so that she isn't left alone. Wants her to find a relationship. Jasper and Leah seriously dated 10 years ago, but broke up during college. To please her dad, Jasper and Leah agree to begin a fake dating relationship, with no plans to get their hearts involved. This lie gets them into a few sticky situations, and they quickly learn that no good comes from lying. I loved the friendships in this one, and Jasper is the brother of Jack from book 1. So Jack does play a pretty prominent, or he's actively involved in this book, which I just love when we see characters again. So those are my 10 recommendations for you to check out. Now I have 4 possibilities that I can choose from to put on my TBR for June. So the first one is Brunch at Bittersweet Café by Carla Laureano. This is book 2 of the Supper Club series. And in this one we are following Melody, who is one of the friends of Rachel. I had to think what her name was. One of the friends of Rachel that we met in book 1. So we know that Melody is the pastry chef, and that's about all I really know about this book that I can remember. I have read this one, so this would be a reread for me, but I am working my way through the series because I've never read book 3, and I want to refresh myself with this friendship group and these characters. So this is kind of the one I'm really leaning towards, but I do have some other options. So another option is In Search of a Prince by Toni Shiloh. This is book 1, I think. I think this is a duology. I only own book 1, but I've heard really good things about this. I've heard it compared to Princess Diaries, and so that's a possibility. Then 2 other possibilities that are on my Kindle is Reclaiming Nick by Susan May Warren. It is book 1 of the Noble Legacy series. It is an older book of hers, but this one is on my TBR bingo board, so I need to read it at some point this year. However, this one is also on my TBR bingo board, so they're both priorities. Okay, then the last one is Checked Impressions by Carolyn Miller. This is book 3 of the original 6 hockey series, and this is the next one in that series that I need to read, which again is a priority read for this year because I want to get this series done this year. So those are my 4 possibilities and then the 10 recommendations. If you've read any of these 4 possibilities, please leave a comment below to tell me which one you would pick. Okay, so that is all I have for you today. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you've added some contemporary romance to your TBR if you have not read any of these books before. Have a great day. Bye.